Welcome back to Global Eye. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine continues to intensify, with Moscow launching a barrage of missiles and drones this past week. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said 100 drones and 90 missiles were launched at Ukraine over the past 2 days. Ukraine has said that the attacks hit the country's power infrastructure. President Volodymyr Zelensky called the attack a despicable escalation, accusing Russia of using cluster munitions. Speaking at the Collective Security Treaty Organization summit, Putin insisted that the attacks were in response to strikes deep inside Russian territory. The Russian premier has also threatened to attack decision-making centers in Kyiv with the country's new ballistic missile, Oreshnik. Russia has begun serial production of the missile, which was used to hit Ukraine last week. Ukraine President Zelensky warned that any Russian blackmail would be met with a tough response. Let me go across to our guests. We are joined by Brahma Chellaney, strategic affairs expert, and Olha Vorozhbyt, foreign policy expert, to take this discussion forward. Let me go across to Olha first. Olha, how do you see the threats coming from the Russian president? Do you expect some serious escalation in the Russia-Ukraine war in the days to come?
Good evening. Well, these are not the first time that we see this, these threats, of course, and what they are aimed for. We see that they are aimed mainly on the partners and on the countries that support Ukraine, that they are the message to them not to support Ukraine. Vladimir Putin understands power, and it is bold beginning to say that the Oreshnik was launched as a response for Ukraine launching long-range missiles into Russia, because this was Russia which actually started the war and war on Ukraine. So this blackmailing, we hear it for a long time. However, as you've seen, Putin is ready also for escalation. But previously, you've seen the escalation with also inviting the North Korean forces that now take part in the war from the Russian side. And this was a major escalation, which is very important also to understand for the whole world, especially in Asia, because taking into consideration the level of the war, the level of the battles that are ongoing, the level of the equipment that is used now, the experience that these North Korean soldiers could get in the battle, it could bring them back to Asia. So this is what is important to understand. Going back to this blackmailing, so we suppose that this was mainly the message to the West and to this, not only to the West, to the whole partners that support Ukraine, not to support it so that Ukraine was weak, because Vladimir Putin understands the power.
All right, so you're saying that this was a message to the West. Let me get in Brahma Chellaney. Brahma Chellaney, this is a tricky period, isn't it? President Biden wants to leave a legacy behind. In 2 months, you'll have a Trump presidency. Powers such as Russia and also Israel they have the option of taking advantage of the situation, be it Hamas, be it Hezbollah, Iran. Anyone can take advantage of the present situation. So what's your take on the present situation in Europe? Do you think things could worsen? And what is Russia trying to do at this stage?
Biden's legacy is to leave a mess in Ukraine for his successor, Donald Trump. Today, Russia has the momentum on the battlefield. Russian forces are advancing, even if incrementally. They're gaining territory. As a result, Western powers have convinced Ukraine now to shift to a defense-only strategy. A defense-only strategy focused on preventing further territorial losses rather than seeking to reclaim lost territories. A Biden supply of anti-personnel landmines seeks to bolster such defensive defense on the part of Ukraine. But there's also a second aspect that Biden has done recently, which is to provide offensive go-ahead to Ukraine to use American-supplied long-range missiles to strike targets inside Russia. And this has been followed by Britain and France providing similar go-ahead to Ukraine. The problem is this, that these long-range missiles depend on US navigational data and other satellite reconnaissance technology that Ukraine lacks. So in effect, when Ukraine launches any such missile, it's the Western powers that control the flight mission as well as the targeting. From the Russian perspective, this means that NATO forces are directly involved in this war. So this creates escalation and counter-escalation. And we're seeing how, in response to the Biden go-ahead, Russia has stepped up missile and drone attacks on Ukraine, targeting its energy infrastructure. The most recent missile and drone blitz caused substantial damage to Ukrainian energy infrastructure across much of the country. A number of cities were without power after those strikes. Right. And if such strikes continue, and we should not forget that winter has already set in, so if such strikes continue, this will cause a lot of havoc in Ukraine. And therefore, Trump's pledge to end the war seems quite sensible, given the fact that a majority of Ukrainians now, according to the latest opinion survey, a majority of Ukrainians also favor an end to the war.
Right. That is an important point. Ola, what's your sense? Do you think President Zelensky and his team would like some sort of negotiation and settlement before the Trump administration takes control?
Look, we once more need to stress the point that Zelensky and his administration, they are representatives of the people of Ukraine. And when we go back to the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the US administration gave us 3 days, 1 week or so, and Ukraine standed. Ukraine now stands for almost 3 years, and this is why it stands, because of the people and because of the cause of people. And this is probably the most important thing you need to understand. Yes, what Russia does now, it targets energy infrastructure, also civilian infrastructure, and the important point to stress here over the last strikes, for example, so it aimed onto the substations of the nuclear power stations, which frankly is a very dangerous thing, because it not only brings troubles to Ukrainians, as me, for example, I'm speaking from at the moment without being without electricity with you, yes, but what it brings, it is also dangerous to the nuclear stations themselves, because these substations they support the working of the nuclear power stations. Without like cooling engines, without that, there could be major events, I mean, which will influence not only Ukraine but also the whole part of the world here. But right. Just coming back to whether the Zelensky and administration would stand for that. For Ukraine, this war is defending not only its territory, but defending its identity. And this is what Russia is targeting here as well, killing people or trying to restudy people on the territories it occupied in Ukraine. So for us, for Ukraine,
Ola, I'll take the final comment from. I'm running out of time.
The most important thing is the just peace.
We're running out of time. Yeah. I'll get a final word from Brahma Chellaney, because we're just running short of time on the program. Brahma Chellaney, final thoughts from you. What do you think is going to be Putin's or Russia's threshold? At what stage will these threats, and they have made threats of a nuclear attack in the past, but at what point do you think Russia could turn these threats into reality?
I don't think there's any danger of Russia using nukes in Ukraine. The danger of a NATO-Russia direct war has passed. That threat was looming large under Biden, but now with Trump about to take office, that threat has receded. The issue is, how will Trump end the war, because he has boasted publicly that he would end it within 24 hours. Obviously, that was just a boast. But the fact is that when Russia has the advantage on the battlefield and the incoming US president has already committed to ending the war in Ukraine, that gives Moscow more leverage. The fact is that Trump, he has just appointed he's just appointed his Russia-Ukraine envoy, Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, who in an essay a few months ago said that the Ukraine war was an avoidable tragedy caused by the incompetence of Biden, and that going ahead, the focus of US policy ought to be on ending the killings through a peace proposal. In fact, he submitted that peace proposal to Trump, and that's how he got hired as the Trump administration's Russia-Ukraine envoy. So both Trump and his specific envoy for Russia and Ukraine are both committed to seeking peace. But achieving a peace agreement will not be easy because of the reasons that I've described. So while the incoming US administration will be committed to achieving peace, I think the actual realization of that goal may take time.
Right. Thank you so much, Brahma Chellaney and Ola, for joining us on the program. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Global Eye. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more news and updates on the other side.